Hello, so I thought I'd do a quick video about the rating system that I'm using for the books that I'm reviewing. So on these book reviews for 2020, I've been putting at the end like the star rating out of 5, and I'm using the Goodreads rating scale. Now, a lot of people don't really kind of know or understand fully what the Goodreads rating is. They seem to think that, oh, it's 5 stars, which means that 3 stars must mean that it's in the middle, and that's not the rating system at all. Like, if you actually look it up, it's not the rating system. So I'm going to go through each of the star ratings and kind of explain a little bit about what they kind of mean, and then what they kind of mean to me, and therefore you can kind of understand my rating system a little bit better. So I'll start off with 1 star. So on Goodreads, you can't give something no stars. So a 1 star therefore logically means that you don't like the book. So if there's a book that you don't like, you thought that it was terrible, you hated reading it, you just didn't want to read it. I mean, I think most people kind of give up on books that are like that, so you don't necessarily see a lot of 1 stars for that reason. But there's quite a lot of us out there that if we start a book, we've got to finish it, and so therefore there's probably going to be a lot of 1 stars for that reason. I don't really tend to give 1 star ratings that often, because even if I dislike a book, I usually get something out of it that kind of then tips it into okay. So there's not that many, but there have been some that I've read and gone, this is absolutely awful, and I've hated every minute of it and just wanted to get to the end of it. So when that's been the case, it's been a warranted 1 star. So I don't give my 1 stars out lightly. If it's made me feel like I don't want to read it and I hate reading it, and there's just stuff about it that I really don't like, then it gets a 1 star. So the logical progression, therefore, is a 2 star would be that it's okay. So if you're kind of reading a book and it's a bit like meh, it's not like you dislike it, and it's not like you like it either. It's just kind of it's just in the kind of middle. It'll be a 2 star rating. Now, I tend to give quite a lot of books 2 stars because, obviously, like I said, I don't really dislike books, so I don't really give it a 1 star. But I don't necessarily read it thinking I really like this, and I'll kind of get more into what the difference is between a 3, a 4, and a 5 star in a minute. But essentially, if the book is kind of, it's all right, there was a kind of a few things in there that were interesting, or I got a little bit of something out of them, but it had significant flaws in it and things about it that kind of put me off it, then I'll probably give it a 2 star. And I think this is perhaps more of an issue for people that are well read and have read quite a lot, because when you've read quite a lot of books, you tend to find like similar things in books, because people kind of, I guess, copy each other's ideas or take reference from each other's ideas, and you kind of see a lot of samey stuff. It's funny actually, because when books come out on Audible, they're always about similar themes and similar things, and the market gets saturated basically. It's because like somebody finds out that something works, and then everyone jumps on the bandwagon, and then it saturates the market, and then nobody can do that anymore. So it's just the case all the time. So if you're a reader that likes novelty, which I am, I find it very difficult to find a book that really like me. It's wow, because I've read it before in some other kind of form. So I'm going to start now with the 5 star rating, because there's only slight nuancy differences between 5, 4, and 3 stars for me anyway. But essentially, the Goodreads one would be that a 3 star is that you liked it, a 4 star is that you really liked it, and a 5 star is that it was amazing. So if I start with the 5 star, I think this is probably where it gets a little bit more subjective, because for me, to find a book absolutely amazing, it's got to grip me. It's got to make me want to sit and read it and complete it in 1 sitting or 2 sittings. And it's got to kind of almost like play on my mind, and I've got to kind of like be gripped by it and think about the characters. If it's a fiction, if it's a non-fiction, I've got to find something in there that I didn't know before that is like, wow, I didn't know that. An example would be, I read a book about how emotions are made, and it was kind of like all about new neuroscience and psychology, And I did a degree in psychology, and it was teaching me stuff that I didn't know. And I was like, wow, like that's a 5-star, because there's stuff in there that I did not know. And this is another thing as well. If you're well read and you know a lot about, well, a little bit about a lot of stuff, then books can't really teach you that much more because you've already kind of learned about it. So, for example, when Sapiens came out and everyone was raving about it and saying how amazing it was, I read it knowing full well that there wouldn't be much in there that I didn't already know. And I was right. When I read it, I was kind of like, yeah, I know all this stuff already. Like, how do you not know this stuff? And so for me, it wasn't a 5-star because it wasn't new stuff to me. It's quite difficult for me to give a 5-star rating because there's not much out there that I don't already kind of know a little bit about anyway, because I've already read books that are like that. And usually the books that have kind of like good information in them are often very badly written, so they suffer from style, so they wouldn't get a 5 anyway. So it's kind of like, if something is amazing and if there are any flaws in it, they're overshadowed, then I would give it a 5-star. I don't give 5 stars very often. I'm trying to think if there was anything. I've not given a 5. I think this year, no, it was just 4 stars. I don't think I've given a 5-star for a long time. It's got to really kind of grip me, and I've got to devour it basically, and got to be like blown away by it for it to be a 5-star. So like with the 1-star, 1 and 5 stars are not given very often. For a 4-star, so a 4-star is where I really like it. So I'm kind of reading it, I'm interested in it, I want to kind of finish it really quickly. I don't want to put it down. There's kind of, if it's a fiction, there's really good characterization, there's a real connection to the characters, and there's perhaps something slight that has put me off it. So, for example, I read a book this year about the economy, and it was really good. Really enjoyed reading it, thought it was really accessible to people who didn't really know much about the economy, but it was written in a really, really conversational style. So the writing style kind of put me off it. And so therefore it was kind of like, you know, a 4-star. Another example of a 4-star would be, so I read a fiction called Flowers of Algernon, and it was really, really good. And there wasn't necessarily anything missing in it, but it didn't kind of like wow me in terms of the plot. And so that was kind of missing a little bit, I guess you could say. It's not like missing, but it's just, it could have been different. But then the book itself might not allow for that scope, so it wouldn't make sense in that book to do that. So sometimes like the way that a book is written and its intention doesn't allow it to become a 5-star in my view, I would say. I'm trying to think of other examples of things that I'd read. So I read The Book Thief. Really, really great characterization. Cried my eyes out at the end, but I had a massive problem with some of the metaphors that were used and the framing of it a little bit. So for that reason, I gave it a 4-star. So it tends to be like, if I really, really like something, but there's this bit of an issue with it that really annoyed me, it's going to be like a 4-star. For a 3-star, means I liked it. But there's probably some things wrong with it, and probably quite a few things. So like a 4-star is where there's just like one minor thing, or, you know, little tiny things that don't take up like a lot of the book. Or, I mean, for example, like in The Book Thief, the things that I had issue with were quite frequent, but the fact that it made me cry and the characterization was really good made it go up to a 4 rather than it being a 3. So it's kind of like a tipping scale. Like, you kind of get a feel for like what should the rating be, because books have different things that they're good at. Like, it's very rare to find a book that's good at everything, which is why 5 stars are, you know, I don't give them out very often. And it's interesting that when I look on Goodreads, there's people giving 5 stars out willy-nilly to all kinds of books, and it's kind of like you kind of hitting a ceiling there. Like, that book is supposed to be amazing, and I doubt if you asked everybody about that book that they would say that it was amazing. So you shouldn't really be giving it a 5-star. You know, some people have kind of quite subjective kind of views about what makes a 5-star, but personally it's got to have like good characterization, the plot's got to be great, there's got to be some new stuff in there that I didn't already know, you know, it's got to be gripping. I've got to not want to put it down. So for me, my bar's quite high. In terms of the 3-star, I mean, books like, so for example, I think I gave Noughts and Crosses by Mallory Blackman 3 stars because I really liked the book in terms of like the kind of combating of systemic racism, making it accessible to people. But I didn't like the fact that the characters were like teenagers and they were, you know, in a love story. And I'm kind of reading one at the minute called Shatter Me, which is quite similar. And it's just like, I want to be sick. Like, you've just met each other. You don't love each other. Like, come on, get a grip. But I understand that teenage relationships are like that. But yeah, I think reading kind of books like that, like, it puts you off it. And then also there was kind of, you know, I'd watched the TV series and that was done a lot better, and also the way that it was written, the style of it and the grammar and stuff was really kind of like not good. And so there was kind of a lot of things that were putting me off it, but I still liked the book. So that's generally what kind of makes it a 3-star for me. You know, if I liked it but there was significant problems with it, then it's a 3-star. So there you are, that is my kind of rating. That's how I'm kind of going by when I kind of give these star ratings to the books. So that might give you a little bit more insight when you look at one of my reviews and you see how many stars I've given it as to why and kind of what that book might be like. But obviously these ratings are subjective. It's my kind of personal preference on what I like in books. You know, that it might be that your own rating might be, you know, very different. And if you look on Goodreads, you'll see lots of people's ratings are very different. You know, there's lots of books with very high ratings that I've given 2 stars to because they have been really bad. So, you know, don't believe Goodreads ratings and don't believe kind of definitely not Waterstones or Amazon ratings because they're trying to sell you books, you know. But yeah, that's my rating. I'm kind of a little bit more harsh, I guess, with my ratings. I'm not harsh actually, more realistic, more honest. So there you go. Hope that was helpful.